setting Washington's agenda. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Peter Marisi, University of Maryland economics professor in the house this morning.
I'm a professor at the Robert H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland.
And who is Robert H. Smith, by the way?
A philanthropist who gave us a lot of money and for whom the school is named.
And when you leave, are you going to write a big check to the university? So there's Peter Marisi.
Well, if I could look at what I could possibly give, I guess they might name a few benches or a couple of tables or even maybe a classroom, but I don't think I'm going to get a whole building. By the way, we are domiciled in Van Munching Hall, the sole distributor of Heineken beer in North America.
How about that?
We educated both Mr. Smith and Mr. Van Munching, our graduates of our college, as was our recent basketball coach.
That's right, who will be on the floor of the Comcast Center soon. His name will be.
Well, he deserves to be. He's quite a success.
Yes, he is.
We educate for success.
That's right. All you have to do is Google, and you'll find out the answer to the University of Maryland's buildings.
All things are possible at the University of Maryland, even me.
Scott Cleland joins us now. He is the author of the book Search and Destroy: Why You Can't Trust Google. Actually, there is a Maryland connection to Google, isn't it? And one of the founders went to Maryland at one point in time. I don't know.
Well, we're heavy in the high-tech sector.
Yeah. So good morning, Scott. How are you?
Fine. Thank you for having me.
So the name of the book is Search and Destroy: Why You Can't Trust Google Incorporated. So why can't you trust Google?
Well, they have led everybody to believe that they're trustworthy, ethical, and an unbiased company, and they're untrustworthy, unethical, and shockingly political if you look at the facts.
What are they doing?
Well, we should talk a little bit about how people don't understand that, first of all, everybody knows the benefits of Google, but there's never been a book that's written about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so their Big Brother Inc., they literally track everything you do. And that's, they know what you want, what you think, what you believe, what you read, what you watch, and what you intend to do. And so people have no appreciation.
What we intend to do?
Yes. The search is the database intentions. You show, that's probably one of the most intimate things you do online, which is what you search for.
Of course, but how do they know what I'm going to search for?
I don't even know what I'm going to do.
Well, if you
we understand that.
Well, think about how creepy many of the things Google has been doing are. They track wherever you are online. They track offline a lot of what you do. They eavesdrop on us.
How do they track what we do offline? How do they eavesdrop?
Well, let me say, they read your email, they photograph your house, they record your voice print and your face print. Now, remember, how do they track you offline? Well, there's all sorts of products and services they have. If you use Google Calendar, if in your Gmail you're telling somebody where you're going, I mean, they record everything.
That information is recorded in your emails, but are they then making a record of that and putting it in a log, kind of a diary of Peter Marisi or what have you?
We don't know that because they're one of the most opaque, even though they expect everybody else to be open.
So it's speculative as to whether they're creating a diary.
Well, they've told us that they're integrating almost all of their services in order to compete with Facebook. So that's what they're doing right now. When the new CEO came on board, they basically said, all hands on deck, we now need to get in social media. And so their advantage is to tie together all of the information they collect through the multiple services, everything from YouTube, from Google News to Android, all tied together so they'll know more about you than Facebook.
Yeah, and I noticed that when on YouTube I had to essentially go to a Google account in order to get on it the other day.
Yes, and Google is aware of most everything that goes on, and we should talk about why that's a problem. Is they now have the most intimate Uber profile on people that has ever existed, and that can fall in the wrong hands in four ways. It can fall in the hands of a rogue employee, and that has already happened. An engineer was stalking teenagers. It can fall into the hands of a hacker. Last year, the Chinese hackers hacked into the whole system and stole Google's password system. Or it can fall in the hands of a spy agency. We know from the front page of the Washington Post that Google works with the National Security Agency. Mm-hmm. It also can fall in the hands of law enforcement without a subpoena, because the laws haven't been updated to protect you from that. And what the worry I have is, in a free country, no one wants to have an increased danger of stalking, blackmail, theft, fraud, kidnapping, intimidation, harassment, or arrest. I mean, That's the type of information that the East German Stasi would have loved to have collected during the Cold War. This is a free country.
Well, let me ask you this. Are they doing anything illegal?
Well, it's funny you ask. Right now, the DOJ is investigating them criminally for promoting illegal pharmacy sales. And in the news all last
Well, that's
week,
very different. Are they promoting those kinds of sales, or are people using Google as a way of selling drugs? Because people sell all kinds of stuff through Google.
Well, what's interesting is Google is putting away $500 million to pay what would potentially be the third largest corporate criminal fine ever. And we've known that from SEC.
Yeah, but are they putting that aside for pharmacy sales?
That's what the reports tell us, and we don't know all the answers.
What reports? From whom?
That's Wall Street Journal, the other wire services. It's been one of the main Google stories over the last week. So when you ask about what have they done wrong,
but what are their sources? I mean, how are they getting this information?
I'm sorry, for the pharmacy sales, or
yeah.
Well, what this is like is they are advertising for sites that they, according to the DOJ, would be illegal to be promoting, and that's where
kind of like promoting gambling sites.
Yes, well, it's sites where they sell steroids or where they sell off-brand things, or they might be sites that sell fake drugs. So there's a great risk here, but that's the one that's a criminal. But if you look at what Google has done, they're a notorious scofflaw. On antitrust, they have 5 antitrust violations in the last 30 months. They're being investigated on 3 continents. On privacy, they're being investigated around the world for Street View and for other privacy violations. And so this is a company who has values that are not like almost all Americans. Most all Americans believe in the respect for privacy, and they believe in the respect for property. And Google has a radical agenda. Remember, their mission is to organize all the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Now, what's the problem with that great-sounding mission? Well, they include all of your private information in what they organize. So they want radical transparency over privacy, and they want to redistribute all the world's information property to others for free without permission. And so embedded in that altruistic mission are 2 political values against privacy and against property that are fundamental to our society, democracy, and to a free market property-based system.
All right, but I guess what I hear from Google is that, well, you know what, if you don't want to use us, don't use our products. There are a lot of other competing products that are out there. I mean, you could go to Yahoo. There are all kinds of search engines. You don't have to use Gmail. You don't even have to go on YouTube.
That's a great question, and the problem is Google, once again, misrepresents who they are and what they do. They say, look, we only work for users. Users are the customers. No, they're not. In search, users, we don't pay a dime.
Right.
So the competition is for search advertising. They have a monopoly. My estimates are it's about 94% of search advertising revenues. And that's the business. They have locked it up, the back end. We see it and we say, boy, we've got choices here. But the business of the Internet, how you monetize content, how people, advertisers and publishers reach users, Google is the main broker, the main bottleneck, and they're not an honest broker. They have tons of conflicts of interest.
Scott, before we let you go, Google was asked about you in a Fox piece, and they say, well, everyone knows that Mr. Cleland stopped being a neutral analyst years ago and is now paid by Microsoft and AT&T to criticize Google full-time. Are you paid by Microsoft and AT&T?
Look, Google can't refute the message, so they like to shoot the messenger.
You're not answering the question, though.
I'll tell you, this is my book. None of my clients knew about this book before it was printed. So this book stands on its own. 4 years of research.
So there's no financial support from your clients in the production of this book, in the writing or researching or production of this book.
This is my book.
Okay, but you have Microsoft and AT&T as a client.
No. What you're trying to get me to do is disclose who my clients are at any given time, and in a free market, and if you ask almost any business, they don't, because that would inhibit their business. I have disclosed on my website and in the book that I work for Fortune 500 clients who may be competitors to Google. But
what I'm trying to determine, though, is I recognize that the problem or the issue that you have, many academics have this issue as well. I just want to know, for the benefit of our listeners, that clients that do compete, the clients that you may have that do compete with Google, have not financed the research for this book, because that issue has been raised in the media.
Well, what I've said is I've worked on this book for 4 years. There's over 700 endnotes. I use 150 Google quotes. The facts are overwhelming. This is my book. This is something I've always wanted to write a book, and it stands on its own. And Google can't, remember, they won't address any fact of this.
Right.
They won't say anything I've said is not true. All they do is impugn me and my integrity and try and shoot the messenger. People can judge for themselves.
Scott, good to have you on the program.
Thanks
for
a
coming
lot.
on.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Scott Cleland, author of Search and Destroy: Why You Can't Trust Google